Hello, David Liu here. Some of you may know me as D-Sloogie, or D, or Dave, or something else. Anyways, I was blessed with the opportunity to give an honest review for the D22S Pen Display from Artisul. They were kind enough to ship me the device at no cost for my thoughts. Hopefully some of you will find this helpful as the market started to become a bit saturated with Wacom alternatives as well as more affordable offerings from Wacom themselves. I've spent about a solid month working only on this device to make sure I give you honest insight from someone who has done digital art and animation for more than a decade. I wanted to use this as if it were my only drawing device, forcing myself to be productive on it with no other option. I'm happy to report that the D22S delivers on that. I can pick up my pen and draw whenever needed with no strings attached. It has become part of my workflow in the 50 plus hours of time I put into art each week. I don't want to compare it head-on to Cintiq as these two are completely different classes of pen display devices with also drastically different price tags. So at a glance, the Artisul D22S is a capable 21.5-inch drawing tablet. It's compact for its screen size with a clean and minimalist form factor compared to other monitors in its class. Though not quite portable for a daily commute, it doesn't take up much desktop real estate with its default setup. The D22S features a 1920 by 1080 resolution and a 76% Adobe RGB color gamut. The pen stylus is a battery-free pen with 8,192 levels of pressure sensitivity. It's packed in with a pretty basic metal stand, but also has VESA mounting capabilities for those interested. They also give you a bevy of other goodies like pen nibs, a stand, those silky glove things, and a nice travel case to house it all in. So right off the bat, how does this $449 pen display compare to Cintiqs of similar size, like say the 22HD or the 24-inch Pro? Honestly, there really isn't a comparison to be made. As stated earlier, these brands are in different classes of build quality and price. If you've used and felt Cintiqs in your line of work, there's a level of fine-tuning that is somewhat absent in other brands. When you spend over $1,000 on a drawing device that has become an industry standard, you sort of get what you pay for. I've been using the same Cintiq for 10 plus years, and with a company so new like Artisul, we don't have the data to really compare the longevity and durability of the device. So instead of comparing two different classes of pen display, let's approach how Artisul delivers their drawing experience, especially to a new user who has yet to dive into the digital frontier. TLDR, I think it does the job and did so better than expected. Alright, so let's get into the D22S and see what it's all about. The display is vibrant and easy on the eyes. It does struggle with different viewing angles, but I think that's due to the matte finish screen protector installed on the display. We can talk about that in a bit. The only buttons on the D22S are the standard calibration and power buttons located on the bottom right. Nothing really out of the ordinary. Depending on how you like to work, the lack of express keys may affect your opinion of this device. If you're used to multitasking with a keyboard for your shortcuts, this is something that will feel right at home for you. That's personally my preferred way of working, and I seldom use the express keys on my Cintiq. I actually find it more comfortable to rest my secondary arm flat on a desk than being raised and resting at an angle on the display itself. The packed-in stand is pretty unremarkable, but it does get the job done. You have a decent range of heights and angles to position the screen, and it's simple to adjust with its easy-to-reach lever in the back. I've noticed though, if you lean too far from its center of gravity, the stand starts to give in to the pressure because it doesn't fully support the weight. It's a bit jarring at first, but was ultimately easy to get used to. It never really felt like the screen will topple over or anything. Some would prefer to have a pair of legs near the far edges of the device for a more even distribution of weight and support. That would of course come with the sacrifice of having multiple display angles and heights with the default stand. The device has a factory-installed matte screen protector on the display, to emulate that papery, scratchy feel, which is slightly more abrasive than the surfaces you'd see on a Cintiq device. With it being a film, you'll notice some shimmering artifacting when you get up close to the screen. It's mostly noticeable on white surfaces. Without a doubt though, the matte finish does dull the display. Even though I was curious of what it looked like underneath, I elected not to remove the screen protector as I wasn't confident it would go back on nicely once removed. I'm assuming it's a pretty standard glass surface with little to no texture for drawing on directly. It may even scratch pretty easily since the plastic pen nibs look to be a bit abrasive on softer surfaces. The model that was shipped to me for review actually had some air bubbles near the top right corner. It's not entirely noticeable, but it was a blemish to the overall quality. The screen protector is also incredibly loud. With a packed-in stylus and default plastic nib, you'll hear lots of sketchy, scratchy sounds while you're working. After about a month of usage, I noticed that the pen was already starting to wear down. It's a good thing they give you plenty of replacement nibs, because I think these things will go pretty quickly. And speaking of the pen stylus, it's pretty good. It's not the best I've used, but it's certainly not the worst. Far from it, actually. It has a very attractive and simple design with a matte black finish and metallic ring at the center. On the chamber, it has 2 clickable buttons that you can program to your needs. I wish the pen had a bit more weight. It feels a tad light to my taste. With a slightly heavier heft, this pen would feel much more premium. Ergonomically, the pen is comfortable to use for long periods of time. Not once did I feel I had any hand cramps or pain from using it. The pen pressure curves are a bit strange, but just at first. It definitely does work, and you can see it in your calibration window. It's pretty satisfying. It's a bit hard to explain, but see how the pen nib just kind of sinks into the pen when you give it pressure? This is a bit jarring when in practice. It sort of feels like when your mechanical pencil lead is almost out and it gets pushed back into your pencil while you're drawing. Does that make sense? Just look at how far this goes in. Another thing I notice is that when drawing at different angles and positions, it affects the cursor position on screen. With the pen tip placed head on, you can see how accurate it is to the cursor. But if I decide to draw at an angle like this, the cursor doesn't follow the pen's nib anymore. This completely threw me off in the beginning, but after some time I was able to adjust the difference and it became second nature. There's also definitely a parallax when working on this display. That has never been really a problem for me just because I've worked on an old Cintiq for the past 10 years, which has the same caveat. Not a problem for me, though it may be for some. Also, I'm happy to report that the dreaded diagonal line jitter doesn't exist on this tablet. For those who have been afflicted by this with other pen devices, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For those that haven't, don't worry because it isn't here. All these things considered, the pen draws very nicely and as expected. Wait, no. It actually works more than I had expected. As of writing this review, I've used this as my daily driver for about a month plus. I've done all of my work on this and have found no problems whatsoever. Let's talk about the drivers a bit. They are very specific, but if you follow Artisul's instructions, you'll be just fine. You have to uninstall every single previous pen display driver from your PC to get this to work. Then you install the latest Artisul driver from their website, and after that setup is done, it just works. I say that kind of funny, but I've had some weird moments. For one, I haven't gotten it to work 100% in Photoshop. It could be a driver issue, I probably didn't calibrate something correctly. I didn't bother looking into it too much because I don't draw in Photoshop. I mainly use it for just color correction and final editing, and I usually just use my mouse. So to be honest, I didn't even notice it wasn't working properly until after a few weeks. I've also had disconnect issues using Clip Studio Paint that have been pretty random. I was able to fix those issues just by clicking out of the CSP window and then back in again. I can't really explain it, it just happens. The fix is so painless, it didn't even bother me. When working in Toon Boom, I had 100% no issues whatsoever, the pressure sensitivity never cut off, and it never glitched. Okay, so I'm also the type of person that leaves my PC on all the time, and I only turn off my displays when I'm done for the day. Sometimes with Wacom, the drivers would get out of whack or have to be restarted. Magically, with the Artisul drivers, this was never the case. I could literally turn on the display and the pen would just work in whatever program I left open. That's pretty great. Programs that I used on this device were Clip Studio Paint, Toon Boom Harmony, Toon Boom Storyboard Pro, and Drawpile. All worked very well with no issues. Clip would glitch randomly, but that was easily fixed when leaving and returning to the window. And I did have problems getting it to work in Photoshop, but like I said, I didn't really look into it much further to solve it, and that could just be on my end with my potato computer running Windows 7. So this device, is it worth it for a new artist? Are you looking for a display that's like under $500 and you want to create digital art? Well, if size matters to you, this 21.5-inch screen is large for the price that they are selling it for. If you like drawing with your arm and having more screen real estate, this device has proven worthy of your purchase. I enjoyed working on this device during my time spent with it. I can't compare it to other brands like Huion and XP Pen as I personally haven't used those, but I would expect very similar results. I can't imagine the technology being too different. So, aside from a few adjustments to the feel and build quality of the device, I can recommend it to those of you if you feel you fit in the category listed above. It only costs a few $100s more than a decent 1080p desktop monitor and can honestly be used as one when you're not drawing. It doesn't even really look like a drawing display, to be honest, because of its minimalist design and thin borders. You can mount this up on a good Ergotron arm, and then you just have yourself a nice set of dual display monitors. And no, it's definitely not a Cintiq and it doesn't feel like one, but you can make great art on it. It works, it functions, it gets the job done, and for a decent price, I don't know, it's a pretty good deal. If you can spare the money, get one off of Amazon and try it out for yourself. Thank you, Artisul, for this opportunity to review your product. Thank you again for everyone being patient for this review. I wanted to do it right and put in my due diligence because I think it deserves it. Getting a device for just art can be a scary one for newer artists. I know I've spent countless hours window shopping and watching reviews, so I hope this brings a bit of clarification to your decision making. Best of luck on your artistic endeavors, and thank you for your time. Cheers.